Hey everyone, welcome back to The Gathering. I'm Dr. Tanisha Allen, and I'm so excited to have you on for another episode. Here on today's episode, we'll be talking about ugly grass, but beautiful glory. Listen, this is going to be an excited episode. It's going to be full of revelation, and I want you to make sure that you're listening in. You're tuning in with another sister. So I want you to take this time out to, first of all, make sure you're subscribed. Hit that subscription button so that you will be notified each and every time that an episode drop on this here platform, as well as make sure that you hit that notification bell so that you will be notified. Listen, I want you to hit the share button, even if you got to share with somebody on WhatsApp, if you got to send it to their DMs, if you got to text them and tell them to tune into this episode. I think that this will be for someone. All we got to do is sow a share. You know what I'm saying? You never know who it is that you will be helping. Here on The Gathering, we are here to make sure that faith and vulnerability is combined into one, that we as women of God could be someone that walks by faith and not by sight, but as well as not be afraid of being vulnerable. We don't have to be hard. We don't have to behave like men, but we could be soft and be able to do everything that God has called us to be. And this is what The Gathering is all about. We're gathering like-minded women all across the nation to ensure that we are walking in the fullness of who God has called us to be. But we're totally us, we're totally vulnerable, and we're totally making a way here on this good earth. So listen, today, as we talk about ugly grass, but beautiful glory, it is going to be all about some revelation that I had while I was sitting in my car in my front yard. Let's get into the nitty gritty of this show. Listen, for the past couple of weeks, I've been sitting in my car. Sometime when I pull up in my driveway, I don't know if other parents or other mothers do this, but when I drive in my driveway, I sit for a little bit and I don't know. I just take a breather. I just relax. Sometimes I'm on my phone scrolling. Sometimes I'm finishing up a phone call, and sometimes I'm just sitting there. I'm just looking around my neighborhood, and in my neighborhood, I promise to you, I have the most ugliest grass. Like, my grass is not manicured like some of my neighbors, and I could sit in my driveway and I could look all the way down the block because I'm one of the first houses on the block. And when I look down my block, I mean, grass, beautiful grass, well mowed, well manicured. And I look into my grass and I'm like, wow, I just have to shake my head. Listen, I'm a single woman. I just need the grass to be cut and be okay. All right. So I could pass the city qualifications. I won't get a little red slip on my garage door. So I just do the bare minimum. I'm not trying to make sure that I don't know. The grass and the weed, all of them are growing together. together. But one of the things that I didn't notice was when I looked down the block, and I look into my grass, I realize that I have hundreds of butterflies. When I tell you butterflies upon butterflies, and it's not just one type of butterfly. There are different species of butterfly, yellow, brown, orange butterflies that are like in my grass. And the first time I noticed it, I didn't really say anything. I was like, oh, wow, that's cool. And I also noticed that there's a lot of birds that visit my grass and different types of birds as well. So one day I was sitting and I was just admiring these butterflies. And as I'm admiring the butterflies and then these occasional birds that will come, and I guess they're looking for worms or whatever they're looking for, maybe even eating the butterflies. I don't know. I looked down my block, all the way down this entire block, and no other neighbor has butterflies in their grass. And I remember looking at that and observing that, and I said, Lord, I thank you for the blessing. I don't know. I'm not somebody that's superstitious. I'm very like black or white when it comes to certain things, but I also know that God speaks through nature. And I know that there is a reason, even naturally, not even spiritually, why these birds and why these butterflies are attracted to my lawn and not attracted to the lawns of my other neighbors. And I was like, yo, there has to be some type of revelation in that, because the most unlikely yard there is, the most unlikely yard um, on my block is visited by God's beautiful creation. And I think that's a revelation within itself, because naturally, us, as human, we always are attracted to attractive things, right? If there's two things in front of you, two purses, because, we're talking to women, we're going to pick the most attractive purse there is, or most attractive shoes or outfit or whatever. Most of the time, it is the most expensive one. And we think that because whatever it is looks attractive, that it is healthy for us, that it is going to even last longer, or we make all of these assumptions because of whatever it is may look more likely to be, or maybe more likely to be picked, but it might not be the one that God has chosen. And if we know our Bibles, we know that that was the story of David. But if we take it back a little bit more, it wasn't just the story of David. It was the story of Israel itself. Israel was the most unlikely ones to be picked by God if we were looking at it from a holistic type of all the tribes that were there back in those days. The Deuteronomy says that Israel was not the most numerous amount of people. They weren't the strongest people, but they were chosen by God. And listen, sometimes we're going through life and we're going through things and stuff are happening. And we're just saying, listen, we might be the unlikely ones that God will use, but no, He's using whatever your situation is to do what He needs to do here on this earth. He uses the foolish things to confound the wise. And whatever you're going through might be something that God is going to use to confound the wise. Now let's get into these topics. My first point that I want to talk about is how God uses the unattractive places to host His presence. Listen, a lot of times we think that when we go and we see this big sanctuary and it's beautiful and it has all these lights and it seats 10,000 people, and they have beautiful singers, and the ushers are all dressed in the same outfit, and they have everything administratively down pack, and everything is just, it just flows well. And we think that the beauty of that church, of that temple, is where God hosts His glory. And it might not be. It might be in the little storefront church that has the old pews, that has our old chairs. I don't know if people know what pews are now. Have the old chairs and have a smaller altar and everything. But God presence could be sitting in that place. It is an unattractive place, but God chose it to host His glory. Listen, would anybody think that God would take His glory, as great as it is, as awesome as it is, and take it and put it in an ark that's built by man, that is carved by man, that is sitting on the shoulder of man, and God uses that as a symbol of His glory, as a thing to host His glory? We would never think that. And that's the same thing with you. God took you, whatever you've been through, whatever the choices that you've made in life, whatever the mistakes you've made in life, whatever you've been through. And He said that I'm going to take you, yes, you, and I'm going to use you, and I'm going to host my glory inside of you. You didn't come from much. You didn't come from a wealthy family. You didn't grow up in church. Your father was not a minister, but God chose you. You. to host his glory. And sometimes we major in the thing that does not matter to God. Listen, I would never think, even though I grew up in church, my grandfather was a pastor and all this other stuff, but my mother and my father, when I got home, I told people when I got home, my house was like a club. My house was like a bar. There was always parties there, and we literally had a bar with hundreds of alcohol there, and there was no curving of tongues there. There was no modesty in my home where I grew up with, so I get it. I get the both sides, people that grew up in church, and I also get the side where people did not grow up in church, and they don't know the protocols of church, because when I got home there was no protocol. You did whatever, you listened to whatever, you know what I'm saying? And so the things that I've been through, if you've listened to any of my videos long enough, and I gave you a little snippet, a little taste of even some of my testimonies, I would never think that God will use me in the capacity that he has. I would think that I will be the least. As a matter of fact, if there was a group of people that was being picked, I would be one of the last people to be picked. If we were at school, if there was sports being played, or if there were groups, or if we had to do some kind of partnership or something when I was younger, I was one of the last people to be picked. And so I took that mindset when I came into Christianity. I believe that I will be one of the least likeliest people that God will pick, because I've just been through some stuff. My attitude was some type of way. I didn't like people like that. And so for God to now use me in the way that he does, it is remarkable. And if he could do it for me, listen, my sister, I know he could do it for you. Let's go on to our next point. What it means to carry hidden favor, even when it doesn't look like it. Listen, there were times I didn't even know I carried favor, because the favor never hit my home. And it wasn't until I sat back one day years ago and I realized that every job that I went on, as soon as I stepped foot in that job, the job started to profit. Some type of way, somehow, I will be one of the highest. If I was getting commission, I will be one of the ones to get the highest commission. If we were doing sales, I'll be one of the ones to have the highest sales. Or if there was some type of issue that was going on that they couldn't figure out, some way, somehow, I will be able to get favor with whoever I needed to get favor with, and be able to solve the issue. And at first I thought it was just like, it was nothing to me, because even though I was getting favor in those places, it wasn't benefiting me at all. It was benefiting others. But it wasn't until I realized, like, hey, every time I go somewhere, their business may not be doing as well, but then when they add me to it, they start picking up. At first I thought it was a coincidence, but I realized that no, this is a pattern. This is a pattern that I see. If I connect myself with other people, I realized that I had favor on my life, that these people will be elevated somehow, some way. And because I looked down on myself and I always thought that I will be the unlikely person, I always thought that I wasn't good enough. I always thought that I didn't bring anything to the table. I didn't have much to bring to the table. So I didn't even look at myself in that way. But it wasn't until I stepped back and I was like, there's something in this. And I need to realize that I carry something. And it's when I realize that I carry favor is when things start working out for me. Because I realized that I could also use that to benefit myself. I didn't need to connect with anybody to get what I needed to get in life. But everything that I'm doing, everything that I was doing for someone else, I could do it for myself. And I didn't really need a person to validate the favor that was on my life. All I needed to do is look myself in the face and say, Tanisha, you're favored. And that's what I want you to do today, to look yourself, put it in the comments, whatever your name is, Like I said, Tanisha, your favorite. So put your name in replace of my name and put I am favored, because you are favored. And it might be a hidden thing for this season, because sometimes God will hide us to protect us. Sometimes God will even use those things to help us to cultivate our identity and to realize that we walk in favor because we are kingdom people. And because we're kingdom people, stuff has to follow along with us. If you look at the president, not the president, but if you look at well, now it's a king. Queen Elizabeth has passed away, but now her son, the king, is in charge. Well, if you look at the royals, you realize that once you are born into that family, there's certain protocol and there's certain things that automatically come because you have that name or that blood in you, right? And because we are kingdom people, there are certain authorities, there are certain favors that automatically attach to our life. We just have to walk into it, and we have to realize that it is ours and it's nothing that we have to beg for. And don't worry if you feel like, listen, nothing may be working out for me. No, start looking at yourself differently and start realizing that it may be hidden, but it's something that you absolutely carry. And you just have to be able to actualize that. And you actually have to be able to realize that you are favored of the Lord. Point two. Point two says, the danger of comparison when you don't know what others are missing. Listen, if I was to look down the block and look at other people's yard, I'll be ashamed. Listen, I'm like, my yard does not look like theirs. And if I was to compare my yard to their yard, no good things should ever come from my yard. But I don't know what type of pesticides they're spraying on their yard, what kind of chemicals they're spraying on their yard. But obviously, it is nothing that the insects, it is nothing that the butterflies could survive on. And even though it looks desirable, it's absolutely not edible. It's poisonous. And so sometimes we go and compare ourselves to something that looks desirable and don't realize that it's poison that we're looking at. And that's when we look at these snakes and these frogs and these beautiful little things, and we look at them like, oh my God, they are beautiful. But their beauty is just a decoy, because if you touch it, you would definitely die. And so be careful of the things that you're comparing yourself to, because you don't know if it's deadly, and you don't know what they're doing to cause whatever that it is that you deem compare worthy. If whatever they're doing is even good and even pleasing to God. So you stay in your lane. They say the grass is always greener on the other side. But sometime if you stick to your side, you realize why their grass is green. And sometimes it's a counterfeit green. And we're looking at it and we're envious of it. We're jealous of it. We want our yard to look like that. And I'm just using that as a just comparing. But if we look at it even in our life, maybe everybody's married. Maybe everybody's having children. Maybe everybody went and got the degree, or they have their businesses, or they're going on vacation, and you feel like you haven't gotten to a place where you're enjoying these things that you're watching everybody else around you enjoy. Listen, just keep going. Keep pushing, because remember, there's favor on your life. And when it is your time and when it is your season for God to manifest everything that He has put inside of you, listen, it will be nothing in comparison to what you see others do, because eyes have not seen, ears have not heard. And that's what the prophecy over your life will be. Eyes have not seen, ears have not heard. The favor of God that is on your life is going to be unmatchable to what you've even seen or heard of. And I believe that. And all you have to do is just believe that with me by faith, that eyes have not seen what the Lord will do in your life. Ears has not even heard. The ideas what God will put into you, the husband that's waiting for you, the children that's coming out of your loins, the businesses, the deals and the contracts and everything else that you are desiring. It is not far from you. It is in your grasp. I just need you to keep pushing because it is on its way. Let's go over to our other point. Learning to recognize God's glory beyond what's manicured and put together. We were just talking about that in our last point. We have to learn that God's glory may be in the unlikely places. It may be in the ones that we, or in the things that we would never think that God will use to elevate us. We would never think that God will come and take a stinky, rugged, not attractive boy out of the field and pour oil on him supernaturally, and then speak over his life and say, you are going to be king of Israel. It is unlikely. And if you watch David's life, how many years it took for him to actually sit in the seat, sit on the throne of king, and what he had to endure, and the battles and the naysay and the battle of Goliath, everything else before he was able to sit on the throne. You would think that what God had said and the oil that was put on his head may not have been, David have to be saying, this wasn't for me. Maybe I'm not king. Maybe I'm not cut out because I'm not strong like my brothers. I'm not as tall and as attractive as Saul, the one that I am serving and I'm playing for. Maybe I'm not as witty as him. And if David sat there and compared himself, listen, he may not have looked like them. He may not be as tall as them. He may not have been as strong and attractive as his brother was or as Saul was at the time, but God's glory was on his life. And listen, I'm talking to myself and I'm talking to you out there. God's glory is on your life. You may not be well manicured. You may not be well put together. You may be from the streets. You may have been through some things. You may be from the trenches. You may be from the club. You may be from the strip club, the streets, whatever it is. You may not be like those who has grown up in church and know church protocol and say all the right things. No, but God's glory is on your life. And I want you to just take a piece of this little ugly grass story, and I want you to sit with it. I want you to think about it and just say, listen, I am the unlikely one that carries his favor. I am the unlikely one that God is going to choose to pick, to strengthen, to clothe, and put me in a seat of elevation. Do you believe it? I want you to believe it. Listen, put in the comments, I believe it. I want you just to take this little moment and put in the comments, I believe it. I want to thank you for listening to this episode. I just want to remind you that all God is looking for is a willing vessel. And if you're willing to host his glory, even though it might be in an unlikely place, I want you to say, yes, I'm ready. And say yes to God. After you watch this episode, you can even put yes all through the comments. I'll be believing with you and praying with you and just helping you navigate through this season as you continue to watch the other episodes. Or if you didn't, this is your first episode that you're watching, go back and watch the other episode. I'm telling you that it will help you to be able to see your way through into this season and into the next. Dr. T believe in you. And until next time, remember, I love you. Bye-bye now.